The Toronto Maple Leafs have holes, and they got to fill them with some goals. The Leafs cast is back. Let's get to work.
Holy mackerel, what a shot! It's Austin Matthews! Do you believe that? Pounds it off the roof of the net!
You like that, Ryan? Put your hard hat on. Get back to work, Ryan. Vacation's over, boys.
All right.
Work's not done.
You guys have been gone, not thinking about the Leafs as much as you should have. That's bad podcasting. And on the subject of bad podcasting, the Leafs cast is bad because we lied to you, the listeners. We said on our pre-free agency pod that we would be on the mic the next day to recap the news, and there turned out to be no news. The newspaper never got delivered. No big signings, no big moves, no nothing. And we said, well, let's just wait. Maybe they'll make a move. Still no move, so you get us a week later. Get over it. It's a free program.
Now we're a week later just complaining about how there's no moves. That's what we're going to do.
Good old Brad extending the season. I think it was last year. At least finished their moves in a week, and we had nothing to talk about for 2 months. This is being much more drawn out, but
Plenty to talk about now.
Probably the least like exciting July 1 for the Maple Leafs. Gosh, I don't know, maybe ever. I would take a David Clarkson signing over
Well, hold on.
what happened July 1st. That's not because, though, the Leafs didn't have, like, money or anything like that. It was just there weren't necessarily the guys out there at that time that the Leafs and Brad were looking to make moves for, and they're trying to be smart with the money rather than just spend it endlessly. I mean, 5 of the 6 teams that spent the most on July 1 last year didn't make the playoffs. So it just because, you're number 1 in most dollars spent on July 1st doesn't mean that you're a guaranteed contender. You might be a pretender, and the Leafs are in a unique situation, right, with the amount of cap space that they had. So
the tough part is that's like, yes, more mistakes are made on July 1st than any other day of the year for like NHL GMs. But at the same time, the window is closing. Austin, like we saw, obviously Mitch Marner, now a Vegas Golden Knight. We're not going to spend much time talking about him this pod. He's gone. But he's a reminder, right? Like, we need to, the years that you have your stars, those are your window. And Austin Matthews under contract for only a few more seasons. You need to, like, sometimes a short-term mistake is possibly worth it. I don't know.
Well, okay, but I don't know that there was who was this like short-term mistake in free agency you think the Leafs could have gone after that they didn't. We'll get into the guys that they did go after, but like, do you think that there was a move they should have made?
No,
free agent wise.
This year was very weak. I mean, you look at the Florida re-signing all their guys at reasonable contracts. Not that we wanted any of them, but I know that's where it's tough. Like, we'll talk about it in a bit as far as what the Leafs have to trade, but there's not a lot of depth there for free agents. Certainly not of Mitch Marner's caliber. And looking to the trade front, the Leafs don't have a lot of capital to trade at this point. So I feel like every trade, it seems like we're just clearing out the cupboard more and more. But you look at the draft history of the past few years and haven't had too many hits, which is unfortunate. But
it's for sure concerning. We're looking at holes and goals here. The holes are very prevalent. Like, you just
big holes.
We just brought in some stuff, and you're not going to replace Mitch Marner with another Mitch Marner. I don't think any of us were looking at like what's the $10 million player we're going to bring in to fill Mitch Marner's shoes. But I think we all thought they were going to bring in someone to play to replace him and play on that line with Matthews and Nyes. And I don't have a lot of faith that we will. The word out there is that Brad is still looking to bring in another top 6 forward via trade. But like you said, Tim, our cupboards are bare. There is nothing left. And anything you trade now is just nothing you're going to have left to trade at the deadline when we want to bolster our roster again. So it's just like, it's not looking great for the forward lineup. If we have our holes, those holes are goals, and goals will be hard to come by for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. Steven, I gave you a hard time this past season when you said that the Leafs were going to be like a bottom half of the NHL team for scoring goals. That is not a hot take anymore. The Leafs will be a bottom of the half team for scoring goals this season. It will be Austin Matthews. It'll be William Nylander. Then Morgan Riley. And
Matthew
Morgan
dies.
Dies. We'll see. We'll see if he keeps up the trajectory. He's not like a huge goal scorer though. Like it's not like he's a 40 goal man or whatever. Like it's gonna have to be by committee. It's not great.
Ryan, be honest. You know, you're out there on vacation, beautiful Southern Ontario. Did you find yourself though occasionally as you're like staring into the horizon, just wondering like, what are the Leafs gonna do?
Tim and I spent a few mornings
wing.
talking about how the Leafs are gonna do. And it ruined our vacation for that.
I'm just imagining you guys trying to talk about like anything else. Like, what do you want to do today? I don't care about what we do today. What are the Leafs gonna do today? It's July 1. They didn't make a signing. Let's get into who is now Maple Leafs though, and what we think about it. So our typical July 1 pod is the players, or the moves we like and the moves we didn't like. Today's theme might be more of the ones we care about and the ones that we do not care about. Spoiler, I don't know if we care about really any of these. We'll check back at the end of the season to see if any of these guys really made a move. But so Vinny Lettieri, I think it's Lettieri, 30-year-old center, is signed to a league min $1 million contract, predicted to be probably the Leafs' 5th or 6th center in the depth chart. Do you care about it or not?
Not.
I don't think
I mean,
that'll be a needle mover on most cases.
I think a lot of these I'd almost as like group in together, because these are all the guys that would be competing for the fourth line roster spots when Berube is deciding what kind of fourth line does he want this year. Like obviously we've seen a couple iterations of it. We saw the identity line with Scott Laughton. It's like, but do we want an energy line of guys that are going to go and you know, move the puck up the ice? We want the extra grit line, the ones that are going to go fight people. Like, until you actually see these guys and how they perform at camp, you almost, like, I don't care about them yet. I care about them when they're on our day one roster.
So when Steven said, these are either guys we care about or guys we don't, Tim said, let's group them all in the we don't care about them.
Well,
I'm
but
just trying to cut
Tim
some
is,
corners.
Tim is right. Travis Boyd is back, signs the exact same contract. Bo.
can do
I
it.
don't even. Grolks? Well, it's not. The X is silent. Gruel?
Nailed
Bo
it.
Gruel. Okay, that sounds like a French last name, but Bo is not a French first name.
His name is Benoit Olivier. We
Shut
have
up.
lost all of our French listeners on this podcast.
All right.
Are you
Let's-
serious? No. What are you talking about?
Let's talk about Michael Pezzetta, because that's the only one that I kind of care about. And, like, I don't
Okay,
care about him that
we gotta
much.
care. We got somebody who cares.
Care about him a little bit. And the reason I care about him is because this is the kind of player the Leafs should have got when they got Ryan Reeves a couple years ago. But instead they kind of went for the big name on the block who couldn't do anything and signed him to a long-term deal even though he's old. Pezzetta's in a significantly different age class than Ryan Reeves. But, like, a similar caliber player, he's not going to be anything more than your fourth line. He's not going to be anything more than just, like, an energy, go, be tough to play against, hit people in the corners, be a bit of a physical force out there. We're not really expecting him to score a lot of goals out there. But he brings something different, a different kind of look that we could experiment with on the fourth line. And he's not, like, 40 years old. So I like that signing because it fills the void. Like, there was a need for Ryan Reeves when we brought him in, but Ryan Reeves wasn't what we should have done to fill that need. It was just a different kind of player. This is the kind of player we should have got. And that's the one that I liked the most out of all of them.
I mean, I think important to note, all of these are like league min contracts. So if
Yes.
like there is zero risk. If they don't work out, they can be minors, they're fine.
But we've done a whole bunch of zero risk league min deals and got a whole bunch of the same player before, and all of a sudden we were like, shoot, we don't have, I think I said it last spot, we have a whole bunch of jeans and we need a Tarzan or whatever it is. And so it's like I like it that we got a Tarzan in here who can go and ruffle some feathers because we don't have too many of those in the bottom half of our forward lineup. Like you look at Florida and they have like 12 of those on their forward lineup. So
Watched Tarzan with the kids the other day too. So good. Just a banger. Great
There you go.
soundtrack. Starts out hot, just like the podcast with the guys we don't care about. But that is the recap of the guys we don't care about. Is anybody mad still that we did not get on the mic and pod July 1?
There's not
No.
a lot. It's not a lot there.
And so where that's left the Leafs, though, is still with a significant amount of holes. I can go over kind of where we envision the lineup being right now, and
Yep.
then we can talk about what the heck happens next. So as of right now, you have Matthew Nyes at first line left wing, Austin Matthews at first line center, and nobody at right wing. So if Matthews wants to dish the puck over to the right side going into the zone, it's going to bounce off of the pizza board and then get picked up by somebody else in the back of our net. That's a big hole. First line right wing's a big hole. We'll get into that. Second line, Matias Maccelli as your second line left wing. It's really between him or Bobby McMahon as of right now. You've got John Tavares at second line center and Willie Nylander at second line right wing. Third line, you've got Bobby McMahon most likely, Nick Waugh, the man we previously acquired in the Mitch Marner trade, and then Max Domi potentially playing third line right wing. Fourth line, you've got Steven Lorentz, Scott Lawton, or David Kampf, and then Kalle Yarncroke. That leaves out of the lineup, as of right now, players like the newly acquired Michael Pezzetta, either Kampf or Lawton, whoever, and then Nicky Robb is technically out of the lineup right now. Same with Ryan Reeves, same with some of these other guys that we signed on like Boyd and Lettieri.
And one other name that's not in the lineup is Easton Cowan. Guy made a lot of noise last year. Does he make the roster this year? That's the question.
He almost did too last year, right? I mean, he was noise, but it was like, I mean, he was among the last group of cuts too. So yeah, that's definitely somebody who could make the big jump straight from the OHL. No Marley's time straight to the NHL. So let's talk about what hole concerns you the most there, and we can get into what we think the Leafs might do, or if there's any semblance of an internal option to replace it.
Well, I think as you laid out those lines there, Steve, like obviously with you left a hole at the top line wing. Like we have quite a few players that could move up to like fill that hole, but I think as you laid it out as areas that we'd be maybe as viewers comfortable with those players playing. Like as you listed, that was a reasonable second line, a reasonable third line, a reasonable fourth line. But it shows how gaping of a hole is when you need like a top line winger. So I don't know, as a concern, that's a significant concern of mine. Like we I don't know, do you want to get into it? Like do we see Max Domi playing up there? Do we load up Nylander up there?
Yeah, that seems to be the main two options. I go back and forth with putting Max Domi up there, not because obviously he had a very down season last year and all right playoffs at times, but generally down, just down. This is a guy though who bleeds Maple Leafs through and through, and whoever goes up there, whether it's Domi or somebody who's not even on the Leafs right now, I mean, you're playing with Austin Matthews, who's generally one of the best players in the world, and Matthew Nyes, one of the best young players in the NHL. So it's not like you're playing with slumps. Is it somewhat crazy to just expect that, like, hey, we're gonna put Max Domi up there this season, and you, Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes, figure it out, right? I mean, like if Michael Bunting were still here and in peak Michael Bunting shape, they'd probably just throw him up there, and we'd be like excited about it, right? So it's not necessarily that we need somebody to go up there and score 40 goals. Like I want Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes shooting the puck, but we need somebody to be able to work with those guys. Is it crazy to think that Max Domi or but Maccelli could fill that hole? Because it's going to be tough, as Ryan got into earlier. He had it any other way through trade or something. What do you guys think about that?
Here's the problem. You say that you're not looking for, someone to go up there and score 40 goals, just like someone who can hang with those guys. We've seen it. I mean, you're going back a lot of years now throughout all the possible combinations that played more with Matthews and Marner on that top line. But you go back to, I'm thinking more like that second year of the Marleau contract, he played up there, and just like Matthews and Marner be doing magic, it would get to Marleau, and then it would just be a dead play, and it's just a waste of those two guys. And the same thing with Thornton when he was up there. It's just like, you have those two are trying to make something, and Thornton's a little bit behind the play, and it just doesn't materialize. So you can't just throw anybody up there. Like it takes a certain kind of someone to be able to skate with guys like who's now Nyes in Matthews, to be able to read them, be in the right spot, and also be defensively responsible, because you hope Matthews and Nyes are going up there to score some goals and maybe make a pinch because they have the talent to do it. But you put someone like Domi up there. We used to have a dynamic duo of Matthews and Marner who were amongst arguably the best in the league for the offense that they provided and the defense. Like those were two elite two-way players, and they would 100% get all the toughest matchups from the other team. They were the ones going out there against the Connor McDavid, the Kucherov, what if you could go down the list, but they were the ones who were taking that because we could trust them. You put Domi on that line, and Nyes isn't necessarily a defensive stalwart himself. So you put Domi on that line, and all of a sudden, that is not your defensively reliable line. And all of a sudden, you're what, putting Tavares against those guys? You're putting Waugh against those guys? Like it changes the whole makeup of your roster and how you deploy your team without Marner up there with Matthews. And that's where it's like, I don't blame you for putting a question mark there, Steven, because I go down the list of the forwards that we have. I don't see anybody that I like up there with Matthews and Nyes. Not even one.
I mean, like, we'll see. Like, even Calle Yarncrack, I laugh when his name comes up because, like, he's played up there with Matthews before. He's slotted in lines 1, 2, 3, or 4. Mm-hmm. What is he gonna do? Who knows? Like, obviously he wasn't healthy for a lot of last year, and so kind of hard to judge where he's now 33-year-old Calle Yarncrack is gonna end up. But it's just like, do we just almost have a placeholder on the top line? But we have a big question mark for Austin Matthews. For one, what does he look like without Mitch Marner? Two, what is Austin Matthews? What is a reasonable expectation for him? Like, last year was a devastatingly bad year for him. Mm-hmm. Like, I haven't heard anything about him getting surgery or trying to fix this wrist, back, who knows, spleen. Whatever was wrong with him last year that they didn't actually ever admit to. I don't know if it's fixed, and we don't know if it's going to be fixed for the start of the year. They said time will help. Well, he has the summer.
Do you guys remember, though, all those years, like 4 or 5 years ago even, when it was for sure Matthews and Marner together, or Matthews and Nylander together? And this was when the salary cap was such a huge discussion, because you'd be like, the Leafs have, $22 million wrapped up in 2 players, and then you'd be talking about who plays alongside them, and it's like, you want, another $10 million player next to you to make these, first $11 million guys get it done. Like, some of it, I feel like now you've replaced that, gaping hole with Matthew Nyes, right? Well, you've lost Mitch Marner, but like, Matthew Nyes is an ascending superstar in the league. Mm-hmm. When I look at who's available like potential guys the Leafs could look at trading for, and what you'd have to give up, which is basically everything that we have, Easton Cowan and everything. I just don't know that the Leafs are going to find a big name, like, name brand guy that's going to play first line right wing in the NHL right now. I just don't think so. I think there's so little chatter. I mean, this is the least chatter of the whole calendar year, but just like, teams aren't really looking to move away from these guys anyway, because they're like, well, the cap's going up so much, we're going to be able to keep pretty much everybody on our team anyway, so like, nobody's stressed about that. And I'm not saying that I love this idea that it's Max Domi, right? But I could just see somebody who maybe we're trading for that's like a $3 or $4 million guy, or just trying it out. I mean, it's not like it's impossible that Max Domi, who is also basically coming off of his worst season ever somehow figures it out, because we had tons of points in the past where Max Domi looked good on the top line alongside Austin Matthews. So it's just something I wonder about, right? Because, yeah, we're looking at these two guys that like should be able to figure it out. They should be line drivers on their own. Both Matthew Nyes and Austin Matthews should be able to figure it out. So we should be able to slap Cousin Jordan on the top line of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
He's got the hat. The other side to that, though, is like I go down to the second line, and Tim, you said when Steven went through his lineup that, we're comfortable with all those spots where you put them. I'm not comfortable at all with Tusks up, Michelli on that second line, and I feel like we're way overvalued. I feel like everyone's way overvaluing him. It's like he comes in, it's like, this guy, he's going to be offensively talented. You could stick him up in the top 6. He's never been a top 6 guy. He's like a bottom 6 guy. He's like a solidly third line player. And for some reason, it's just assumed that maybe he can play with Matthews on the top line. Maybe he'll just go by his side Tavares. And I don't know if that's just because there's not much else that's better. And Bobby McMahon was quite horrible in the playoffs, but to me, it's not even close. Bobby McMahon is starting with Tavares and Nylander. If it's not McMahon, it's Domi. Like, I don't think Michelli should just get a run up there. What has he done to deserve a run on the top 6? Let's see if he can actually make it on the bottom 6 before we start putting him up there.
Tim, you look like you got something to say. You guys have been sitting there in Southern Ontario scheming up everything you want to say on this pod too. It's me versus you two who are like, okay, I'll set Steven up with this, and then you nail him. You nail him, Tim. That's what you guys have been up to.
The thing about Michelli is that he is an elite playmaker. He's like, that's what he does. And so
what's an elite playmaker? Mitch Marner is an elite playmaker. He's like a league average playmaker.
Okay, but you put Mitch Marner on Arizona, which he was one pick away from going from, by the way, and it would have been rough. Would have been different. We wouldn't be looking at 100-point seasons. So you got to account for the inflation.
When I say elite playmaker, he is in no means even in the same conversation as Mitch Marner. So we're grading on a curve here, but that's what he does, right? Like, he's the kind of player that you put in with elite players, he's going to put up the points. If you put him with guys that can't put in the net, of course he's not going to score any points.
I don't get it, though. Like, you say that based on what? What elite players has he played with who put up points?
In Arizona? Well,
don't act like Tim and I are watching Arizona
That's what I'm
highlights.
saying, though.
He had
60
there. Points in 80 games a couple years ago in Arizona.
I'm just saying that, like, I think it's the same thing with Nicholas Waugh, where we're like, this guy's he's just going to be our third line center. He'll be great. He was like a fringe third line center. I think he spent most of his time on the fourth line when he was in Vegas. And Vegas is a pretty deep team. But we just get these guys and we fluff them up and think like, this will solve this problem. Like, we still have a third line center hole, a second line center hole, a second line wing hole, a first line wing hole. Like, we have way more holes than goals. We have no one to trade to get them. Like, we need internal players to way outperform what we expect them to do. Like, we need Michelli to be a second line player, and that would be amazing. That would be way overperforming what we hope for right now, and that's what we basically need.
Are you besmirching Easton Cowan?
I believe, though, that Michelli is going to figure out a way to get this done. I saw the highlight reel. It's sick, but it's also like I'm going off of what I think the Leafs are going to do, and I don't think Brad, who's made a lot of smart trades so far, would have traded a third-round pick for a guy who makes, $3.5 million that Michelli's making right now. Like, I don't think he would have traded a third-rounder for that guy to slap him on the third line, potentially fourth line.
We traded a first-round draft pick for Scott Laughton, who is our fringe fourth-line center right now. So don't tell me we're not trading a third-round pick for someone who's going to go on the third line.
You wanted him, Ryan. You were on this podcast wanting Scott Laughton. This is your fault.
Here, let me give the man some flowers. My pick for who plays on the top line with Austin Matthews and Nyes is Scott Laughton. That's who I want to see them try out there. And here's the thing. Scott Laughton started out so horrible.
Holy smokes.
So horribly brutal when he came to the Leafs on that trade. Gradually got better. Probably looked the best we've seen him in the playoffs. But, like, it still wasn't first round worthy. But, it is what it is. I don't like any of those players I don't like Domi up there. I definitely don't like Michelli up there. I don't like McMahon up there. Really don't like Yarncrook up there. Like, is Yarncrook even a roster player at this point? So let's take Lawton, who we already have a fourth line center. We already have David Camp. Let's put Lawton up there. He will not replace the Mitch Marner offense that we had, but he could replace the Mitch Marner defense. And then Nyes and Matthews could go out there and do their thing. We can give them the tough matchup still. And I think we give it a shot. I am not saying that with extreme optimism that it'll work. But I think that we really need to be trying new things here this season. It should be a revolving door until we find something that sticks. And I would like to see that given a go. And I don't hear anyone talking about it. So I'm putting myself out there and saying I would like to see Scott Lawton give it a shot on that top line wing position.
I think
I
you're
didn't even
crazy.
say to Tim that one at the cottage. This is fresh.
That's fresh. I don't know what's in that water you're drinking, Ryan. I want to dump it out. I think there's a better chance that we see Morgan Riley switch to forward and play top line wing with Matthews than we see Lawton up there. That guy was like one step away from the press box.
He
Anyway.
had 2 goals, I think, in his time with the Maple Leafs. I don't know, Ryan. That's nuts. Honestly, that's nuts.
I don't disagree with you entirely, but I think that you're scraping the barrel here with any option you put up there. And looking at who the coach is, there's no way that it's going to be Maximum Domi up there taking the tough minutes. Like, it's going to be someone who can play defense.
All right, so let's it's July the 6th. It's not September the 6th yet. Like, so there is still time to make some moves. There are still some names out there. And despite Ryan belittling our entire prospect system, we do still have Easton Cowan, who's been tearing it up. We still have Ben Danford, who's been like developing as a first rounder a few years ago.
And got some chatter, by the way, last trade deadline. Teams wanted Ben Danford.
Teams want Ben Danford. They sort by height and weight, and they say, yes, this is a player we can work with. Take a page out of Brad's book. Nick Robertson, yes, he's an RFA going to salary arbitration, but he's still a young forward.
He has absolutely zero trade value. Absolutely zero. You could waive him and maybe a team would take him.
But he's not negative value.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't. But even like, we'll see if Brad gets more creative, right? Like right now, we have positions of relative strength in defense and goaltending. Brad could move a goaltender to bring in a top 6 forward. Yes, we make those positions weaker and they're maybe more concerning, but you can bring in legit players with the assets we have at those positions. Maybe people talk about trading Morgan Riley. That's not happening.
In general, I think that the players that we have right now, like, I would love nothing more than to not see Scott Lawton in that top line position. I think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it's a bad idea as any of these other guys. Like, I don't think we have the horses right now to get it done. But I'm looking at this as like, we need to create a Stanley Cup caliber roster, and we might just not be there anymore. And it might just be we have a playoff team caliber roster, and sometimes that's good enough to just make it all the way and win the Stanley Cup. You don't need to have the best roster in the league. And maybe I'm looking at all these holes and say we can't fill this to match the teams like Florida or Edmonton or Vegas or these other teams that are
Edmonton went to the
right
Cup
now.
final without a goalie.
It put salt in my mouth to say them in that, but they keep making it to the Cup final, so I have to call them out. But Tim, to bring up your point where you say like we could trade a goalie, trade a defenseman to address some of these needs. If you trade any defenseman or any goalie, all of a sudden we are weak in those fields. Like, you trade Joseph Woll, we don't even have a third backup right now. Hildeby, you going to start the year with Stolars, who could only play like 30 games a season and only one round of the playoffs before getting injured, and you're going to have Hildeby as your backup? I don't think so.
Hildebee's getting better every year.
It-
I'd rather go in with Hildeby than go in with the pizza sign as our right winger.
Well, I was thinking of we always talk about Moneyball, right? When it's like right now, if somebody hits a ground ball to first, it's just gonna keep rolling, right? That's what we're doing up there. It is possible though, right, that the Leafs look at moving a different roster player to find other guys yet to move in. I mean, I don't think it's completely impossible that Morgan Riley gets traded. For some reason, we were hearing Brandon Carlo's name being shopped around, which seems kind of crazy because, I mean,
He's
why
got
would you trade a
value.
20? Yeah, but it's like it's also the same front office that thought he had valued him a bunch, a few months ago and traded a lot for him. Something kind of out of left field that I think could be possible, even though the cap is going up, it's not going up for this upcoming season, and there's plenty of teams that are stressed right now, and the Leafs are very much so not. I think they have like $6 million in cap space, and obviously contracts that they could move out to get even more, guys like David Kampf and Calle Yarncroke. And I wonder if a team might look at the Leafs and say, there's a team that needs our, decent or good NHL player that's on a bit of a bloated contract right now for the next 2 seasons that we need to offload, and we're able to get somebody else in the league on the cheap, right? There's plenty of guys that fit that description in the NHL, where, Marlowe's a bad example, right? But the Leafs had to give up a first-round pick to get rid of Patrick Marleau, who still played NHL games for Carolina, and that could be the Leafs, right? Whether it's first line, right wing, or somewhere lower in the lineup, because the Leafs also have no draft picks. They have, not a ton of really great prospects out of the 2 guys that Tim mentioned. It's just something that could be possible, because right now the Leafs really don't seem to be eager to spend that cap space that they have right now. They might go through most of the summer with it, maybe get into the regular season with it, and like I said, there's New Jersey has 2 young guys to sign and $4 million to do it right now. So would Sheldon Keefe look at offloading somebody like Timo Meier or something to the Leafs because they can't afford the guys that they want to sign on their own team? It's not stuff that teams are super stressed about right now unless you got RFAs. But you need to be salary cap compliant and have a full roster come later this summer. So that's something that I wonder if the Leafs are waiting out a couple of teams because teams know that the Leafs need a guy.
Yeah. So what's the other side of that, which is, journey with me into fantasy land here. 2026 unrestricted free agents. How much are you willing to compromise your cap flexibility for next summer in the name of this upcoming season? Because obviously this past summer there was not a lot of needle movers. Next year, now granted, a lot of these names will be re-signed before next summer, but odds are at least a few of them make it to July 1st. You're gonna make a pitch.
Do you have the list there, Tim? This is something we were talking about at the cottage. But do you have the list there of the free agents for next year? Because it was a pretty impressive list, and obviously the headlines by Connor McDavid, and we talked a little bit about that on the last pod. But even if you take him out, because that is a wildly long shot, there's still some really impressive names that's on that list.
Yeah,
and
so
they haven't signed yet.
The big fish himself, Connor McDavid, Artemi Panarin. Interesting enough, Carey Price is available. Contract is up. Bobrovsky, Eichel, Kaprizov, Makar, Line. I don't know if Line. This is sort of by their current contract, but Line is there. Shea Weber's contract is up. Jason Robertson, Kyle Connor, Kopitar. He's getting.
So taking out a couple of those old Montreal Canadian players, those are needle moving players. Those are franchise players, basically equal to that of Mitch Marner that we just lost. Is basically who's coming up in free agency next year. And we went through a bit more of the list here, but there's at least 10 or 10 to 20 players who are really those are your top 6 wingers who you could sign. I think it absolutely is worth saying I don't want to take on Steven. I really like your idea of look for a team who's looking to offload money just for this season because they're just in a bit of cap trouble and they have this player like Marlowe. We just got to get out of 1 season of this player. I don't want to do it for 2 or 3 seasons though, because I think next year is the year that we could really retool and build a roster for what could look like the last few years of this Matthews contract. This year it's not a good landscape. Poor landscape for trade, very poor landscape for free agency. We're stuck sitting here listening to me say that I want Mr. 0 goals Scott Laughton in the top 6 here. It's just not good. And I think that there's absolutely value in keeping that cap flexibility up for next year. And then we really go for even overpay, even sign someone to more money than they need to, but to bring them to Toronto and get it done next year. I think that definitely has some value.
I mean, some of those names Tim mentioned, like, I would personally be willing to put for some of my money even to get those guys. Right? You're talking about paying. Like, I've got, a little bit set aside here. If Connor McDavid wants to come home, I'll write him a check. If Kirill Kaprizov wants to come home, I'll write him a check. Where's Kaprizov from again? It's
like, you mean in
somewhere.
Russia? Like, what are you talking
No,
about?
no, he's a Southern Ontario kid. Kirill Kaprizov.
Okay.
You kidding me? He's from that same town that Artemi Panarin's from. I think it's
Yes.
like Ajax or something like that.
You nailed it. Good job.
Yeah, that's what it is. I thought I heard about them coming up in the GTHL back in the day. Same thing with Kopitar, right? He's a Southern Ontario kid.
Right.
Everybody's coming home. It's it's a weird summer. It's going to be one of the weirder ones for the Leafs right now because I don't know that there's too many names in free agency that they're going to look to sign. We're going to get into that, but we're going to be probably sitting with the same holes and lack of goals for the next month or maybe 2 months. This is when, after July 1's, when everybody goes on vacation, and so there's not going to be a bunch of big moves.
So who would you guys say, if you look at the Leafs roster right now, because we just outlined a whole bunch of holes, and it's how hard it is to meet those goals with trades or free agency. So we probably are going to be filling some of these holes with just internal positions. Who do you guys think, that this is not the My Man segment, but looking back to My Man from last year, and Steven's guy, Bobby McMahon, my guy, McCabe, these are guys who really elevated and were better than we were anticipating them to be throughout the season and really stepped up. Like, McCabe became basically a top-line D-man, and at least throughout the regular season, Bobby McMahon was top 6 forwards in terms of goal production and point production. So who do you guys see this year really like stepping up and being better than we have expected them to be, or better than they've been in the past for this team? Who's going to fill the goals internally?
Silence.
That's
Yeah.
that's a tough one because, like, if I'm honest, like, I don't know that it's Bobby McMahon. I don't think that it's Scott Laughton. I don't think that it's Max Domi. It's really hard to see some of these guys that are coming off of a really down playoffs. Like, Bobby McMahon, I think, was really great in the regular season. I think he was the best player in the My Man segment. I think you guys are both insane. But playoffs were so quiet.
Yeah.
I would pick Michelli. I think Michelli, I think they saw something in him. I think it was a really bizarrely timed move. Like, no other teams were doing stuff like that. I think the Leafs paid big bucks for him. And, yeah, I still believe in him getting it done. I don't know if you guys feel differently, if there's somebody that you're actually looking at.
If I have to pick, like, who's going to get 20 more goals than they had last year, I'd probably look at
20
Austin
more
Matthews.
goals. That's a high. Okay, good one. Yeah.
Well, Matthews could.
Yeah.
Matthews could, right? And then you
It's
see,
in
like,
his
where are the
wheelhouse.
goals going to come from? Like, I think that's who you have to look to, right? Like, you have the C on your jersey.
It's pretty bold.
Get
given
your
that
robot hand on there.
He
and
doesn't
figure
have
it out.
Mitch Marner on his wing anymore to say he's going to get 20 more goals. But, I mean, it is Austin Matthews. So, I mean, you can say something about Nyes, that we just signed this big long extension, and you think, like, okay, well, what's he is he at his ceiling? We paid for what he is, or is he going to get even better now? Like, it could be Nyes. I think it could be Laughton. Like, when we did bring him in, we were expecting him to be a third line center. He basically became a fourth line center. There's no way he's going to score 0 goals in like
he
20
can't
straight
be that
games
bad
again.
forever, right?
Yeah, so it could be Domi. Like, I feel like an idiot thinking that he's not going to be the worst player on our team for the first 60 games of the season again for the 3rd season in a row. But, like, it doesn't make any sense why he is so horrible and then figures it out at the end of the year. So maybe he actually plays a full 82 this year. I don't know.
Ryan's really doubting Austin Matthews' ability. Like, do you not forget Austin Matthews scoring 40 goals with Leo Komarov on his wing? And Tim, name another random jabroni that was on his wing.
Oh, too many to count. He was just trying to carry them along.
Oh gosh, there's a guy in my. There's somebody really random. Shoot,
Oh,
I got nobody.
We
Matt
tried.
Fratton. Matt
Probably
Fratton
had
on his
minutes
wing.
together.
He's gonna figure it out.
One other thing, just on the note of that, the other side of it, we now have one of the oldest teams in the NHL.
Oh,
Which player over 30 are you most worried about taking a step back?
Over 30, that's our whole roster.
That's our whole roster. I'll give you some names that are like for the senior statesmen. We have John Tavares at 34. Yarn Krok is 33. Oh, Ryan Reeves now 38, still on the roster. And then defense, we have McCabe and Riley at 31, Tanev at 35, Ekman Larson at 33.
I think
who's taking a step back?
I think I'll probably say Tavares, which is kind of disappointing.
No.
Because he signed such like a sweetheart deal with us. But the thing is that I feel like this is 3 years ago we started talking about how maybe he can't cut it as our second line center anymore, and it's only getting harder. Like now he's with Michelli on his wing, maybe, or Domi or something. Like, I don't know. It just feels in the playoffs he continues to underperform. So surely Father Time will catch up with him one of these days. And he definitely had a fantastic, at least regular season last year. He scored 40 goals. So is he going to do that again? I don't know. That seems like asking him a lot of him.
Here's the thing. What is the power play going to look like? He's going to get more touches on the power play with no Mitch Marner there. But then again, no Mitch Marner there. Hard to say.
I would say it's Calle Yarncroke for me. Didn't see a lot with him when he came back late in the season last year.
I don't even know if he's going to make the team.
Well, yeah, he's honestly my main pick to not be on the Leafs. Like, just get moved here at some point. Which, I mean, David Kampf's in that discussion too. There's a couple guys that the Leafs could just kind of trade away. Because, like, right now we got a lot of fourth liners, right? Some guys are going to lose their jobs. So, yeah, that's the one for me, which isn't like, I guess I'm not that concerned about it because it's like, oh, okay, well, if Calle Yarncroke's a 2 instead of a 6, the Leafs are the same as they were before, honestly. So Ryan's pick was more dire.
No, guys, the Leafs, classic Leafs cast fashion. You got to talk about the defense.
No,
Ryan said it before. Like Chris Tanev was one of the most pivotal pieces to the Leafs team last year in like making our defensive core work. The guy's 35. If he takes a step back like TJ Brody did, we are now of like significant. Like we're gonna need Jake McCabe to carry his own line. We're gonna need Morgan Riley to play defense.
I don't know. I mean, you are right with TJ Brody like that. You saw it a little bit at the end of one season, then the next season he was just unplayable. And the thing about Tanev is that he was so good last year, the whole time, right to the end, all through playoffs. Like he was top tier. So I'm not worried about it yet. We'll see how he does this year, but I wouldn't say that I'm worried. Like we've seen the decline for Tavares and his foot speed and everything. Like I don't know if I'd say Tanev is the guy.
I'm trying to wonder though, outside of Chris Tanev, who's like the 35-year-old defenseman in the NHL that's just killing it?
Drew Doughty.
Ooh, good one.
Nailed it.
An actual Toronto kid. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Could bring him over.
All right. Let's wrap this thing up and wait for Brad to do something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a weird summer. We're back. Ooh, okay. There's something. Actually, I think we are my main pick for guys over 30 that are gonna look to lose a step this season. I could see this being just a rough year for both of you. Not me. I'm keeping it together, but you two.
Well,
I'm really worried about you.
We are not your pick for your man, I guess. So.
Not this season. Well, you have the summer to change my mind.
All right.
So get to work on it.
Work on it.
All right. Closing thoughts. Anything else you guys want to say? Nothing. It's all been said.
I think we rounded it up pretty nicely.
Hey, go Jays. First in the division right now. That's what I'm on this summer. All right. Go Jays. Go Springer.
That sweep of the Yankees was sweet. It almost has me forgetting the playoff disappointments, but like, hey, it's exciting. It's when I so want the Jays to be good. I need meaning to my summer when Brad does
Playoff
something else to talk to
disappointments?
Ryan about.
That's what we do, buddy. That's what we do. If you're into playoff disappointments, you're in the right place. Okay, Leafs Cast is signing off.